The Andrej Karic loss, I think, is significant because Tennessee is replacing Cooper Mays at center as well. And Carrick's set to play left guard. It looks like right guard will probably go to a transfer already. So you're looking at potentially 2 transfers at guard and then a new center, probably William Satterwhite. Now, Sham Umarov is a potential there at that guard position, but I just really question their depth now. I like Larry Johnson III, but he's a tackle. I like Lance Hurd, but he's a tackle. And I think David Sanders is going to be good out of high school, but he's a freshman. So suddenly just one guy down and this offensive line looks a lot less deep. They'll go with Pendleton. The Notre Dame transfer is a possibility. Wendell Moe from Arizona. So there are some guys there, but still not the base that you would want out of high school football recruiting.
Yeah, so I am going to do something I haven't really done before. Dave, you ready for this?
Yes.
I'm going to give Josh Heupel some credit for roster building and pulling a Nick Saban, which is preparing for multiple scenarios. I was questioning why they went for 2 guards in the offseason, Sam Pendleton and Wendell Moe. It's obvious now. They were prepared for this situation. I think Josh Heupel was ready for Andrej Karic to get this ruling rejected, honestly. And so now you can get Wendell Moe on one side, Sam Pendleton on the other, and I think William Satterwhite, you're right, is going to step in at center at that point. And then you're right, Sham Umarov will kind of be the guy, I guess, would you say, the guy in the background that kind of fills in at one of the guard spots?
Wait, so you don't think it'll be Satterwhite at center?
No, I think it'll be Satterwhite at center. Right. Satterwhite at center. Satterwhite at center, and then Wendell Moe and Sam Pendleton will be the 2 guards, and I think Sham Umarov will be, I guess, what you would call a utility player, just fills in wherever there's an injury.
Yeah, he's a big body, so he can play tackle as well.
Yeah, so I think he'll pull the I guess he'll be like the Ollie Lane of that situation, who was kind of a utility lineman for Tennessee throughout most of the career, throughout most of the period. Now, Vyson Lang is playing. Well, he's gone. But I'm trying to think of the other offensive guards that are in this situation. But because you're right, most of them are playing
Aiden
tackle.
Russell, Max Anderson, but I think he's more of a center. Bennett Warren is another one.
Max Anderson's a good one, though, actually, because that gives Tennessee a backup at center, and then that gives Sham Umarov their backup utility guard. So that's 5 guys that they could rotate in and out of the 3 spots.
Well, clearly, this is the time, right? They've got their opportunity. They've got to nail down a spot.
Yeah, I totally agree. Like, this is the time to nail down a spot.
I mean, if you're Bennett Warren or you're Max Anderson or Aiden Bussell or Sham Umarov, and you don't nail down a spot by this summer, you might be on your way out the door. And they're only redshirt freshmen and sophomores, but still freshmen. But I just don't know that there's a lot of patience nowadays with the transfer portal.
No, I mean, I don't think so either. I think, and that, you're right. This is absolutely the time they need to do it. I mean, at this, and honestly, this is going to put pressure on Glenn Ellerby. He's really got to show finally that he can actually develop players.
Players. David says, I agree with Caleb. He was definitely preparing for multiple situations, but I have to say, I think he does that more often than we give him credit for. It just seems like the roster's been incredibly thin at spots over the years. Like a Cooper Mays goes down and you have a massive fall off. That's what concerns me. If you're a Tennessee fan, I would be concerned about not who they have, the 5 right now, but what happens when, not if, when one goes down. Because they do on the offensive line every year. Who steps in there? Redshirt freshman, redshirt sophomore?
No, you're right. But it's as you know, Dave, it's much harder to build depth than it used to be on the offensive line. And Josh Heupel already took over an incredibly thin roster when he got to Tennessee. So I think it's I don't know if he's done this as much in the past. And I'm actually going to disagree with you a little bit, David Satterfield. I'm glad you agree with me on that part, but you may have a point but to your point, David, it's possible that he's just been limited because he he took over such a depleted roster. I don't think, for instance, though, I'll just take the receiver position. I don't really think he prepared for what might happen if Brew McCoy wasn't back to full strength this past year. He just didn't seem ready to address that issue because forcing Brew McCoy out there was causing so many problems throughout the year. He just wasn't able to be himself.
Well, he wanted to go really
Yeah.
bad. He pushed himself out there. Hound Dogs of Knoxville champions look good in orange. You can pick up a Brew jersey there, hdknoxville.com. If you're a member of the channel and I'm sending out prizes today, you will get a gift certificate as a welcome present. Also be eligible for weekly gifts. And we are giving away that John Henderson helmet. So help me goodness this week. Joe Newbert Collision Center, also 50 years. Newbert Collision Center has been East Tennessee's best choice for quality repair work and fantastic customer service. It's joenewbertcollision.com. joenewbertcollision.com. The question you have, what if Pendleton or Mo don't pan out early? Because they had somewhat of a warm-up last September. Somewhat. I know it was Arkansas and Oklahoma, but you got Georgia this year. They not only have to be ready to go, but they've got to be ready to go like yesterday.
So that's where I think this limits Tennessee slightly because of what Josh Heupel has had to deal with. But I'll say that I think this is where, can we say this is where somewhat recruiting comes into play where, you got to hope that he's got some just in case things go wrong situation now that some of these guys work out. We're talking, you just mentioned Sham Umarov. And, we haven't even mentioned the fact that, what's his name? Let's see. Isn't Masai Reddick still with the program? And, we talked Aiden Bussell.
I don't remember anybody talk about Masai Reddick, to be honest.
Yeah, Aiden Bussell. There's Max Anderson. You bring him up.
Okay, let's do hot or cold on these guys. How about that?
All right, I'm good with that. Let's play.
Where do you stand? Hot or cold? Brought to you by City Heating and Air Conditioning. Integrity matters. 50 years in East Tennessee. CityHeatandAir.com. On Off the Hook Sports.
Adam's saying we do not sub offensive linemen. Well, when one gets hurt, you do. And that's going to happen each and every year. I'm sorry. When you're in the SEC, that's just going to happen. So let me ask you about the following players. I'll give you what I'm hearing behind the scenes a little bit. William Satterwhite, I think it's pretty obvious, brought to you by City Heating and Air Conditioning, that I'm hot on him. I think he's the starter.
I am hot on him too. At center, I'm really hot on him. And I think that this is, I think this was Tennessee's plan all along to have him ready to step in for Cooper Mays.
Okay. Mo. Hey, Mo. Wendell Mo Jr. out of Arizona.
I'm hot on him.
I watched his tape. I'm cold.
Really? You think he was just a product of a system?
I think he's a dude. I don't just see the spring. I don't see that sort of thing. And then you had Sham Umarov, and we'll get to Pendleton. I am hot on Umarov. I saw him get in the game a couple of times last year. So I like Umarov. But I can't tell you much about Pendleton yet. I think he's going to be very good. He looks like a solid player. But I'm not writing off Sham Umarov just because he's a little bit younger than the transfers.
I'm a little cold on Sham Umarov because I feel like he should have seen more action to this point. Sam Pendleton, I'm hot on because, again, the only reason Sam Pendleton, people are acting like he lost his starting job last year. That's not what happened. The player that he was starting in place of was always penciled in ahead of him. That player was just hurt. So he came back and they gave the starting job back to him. It's kind of like when Brew McCoy was relegated back to backup when Cedric Tillman got healthy in 2022. It's not like Brew McCoy lost his starting job at receiver. And so I'm pretty high on Pendleton. He was blocking really well for Notre Dame based on a lot of numbers before that. So
do you have more of a problem with the talent procuration or the talent development? And that's hot or cold. And it's brought to you by City Heating and Air Conditioning, 50 years in East Tennessee. Integrity matters. CityHeatandAir.com.
Hi, Mike Davis here with City Heating and Air, reminding you to always dare to compare. Our team provides quality local heating and air service, installation, and maintenance across East Tennessee. We use only the best equipment like American Standard Heating and Air Conditioning for your residential, new construction, or commercial needs. Honesty, dependability, and customer satisfaction have been the cornerstones of our business since 1961. City Heat and Air.
Switch it up a little bit. your hottest or your coldest on Tennessee's high school football recruiting or their development of talent?
Their high school football recruiting. I don't think they've gotten the right guys, but I will also say up front, I'm going to be fair real quick. When you're rebuilding a program, as Josh Heupel is, the last piece, the hardest part is to get the right offensive lineman. I mean, that is one of the, one, Dave, you know this probably better than anybody. There's probably less of a correlation between star rating and panning out on the offensive line than in any other position. It's almost the hardest to measure of any position in recruiting.
I would agree with that. That's that's why I think that Tennessee with Umarov, who I believe is a 4-star, I'm not ruling him out yet. I think he may have as much upside as Pendleton or Moe, but does that show up this year? I don't know. It really, to not have a more set plan. I have to admit I'm a little cold on Josh Heupel's offensive line progression.
On his development. I mean, I understand why you would feel that way, and I'm not necessarily hot. I mean, he still has not started for a season a offensive lineman he signed out of high school. I think out of desperation, he's taken a lot of bodies and missed. But the one thing that kind of stands out now is Addison Nichols getting the starting job at Arkansas last year.
So let's do hot or cold with these 3 remaining guys that David asked about. What about Max Anderson, Jesse Perry, and Bennett Warren? Are we hot or cold on them? I'm going to be honest with you. I've not heard their name and talking to people in the know, so that makes me a little cold, but I'll ask specifically about them, and I have something for you tomorrow.
I'm hot on Max Anderson, but that was because I was hot on him on the recruiting trail. I did believe in him. Cold on Jesse Perry. At this point, cold on Bennett Warren. I thought Bennett Warren was going to be a guy that could see the field as a freshman, and the fact that he didn't kind of stands out to me a little bit, so I'm cold on him.
Well, no, I agree, and he's kind of like that perfect size, but I just don't know that he has that spring either. I know I've made a reference to that a couple of times.